Hi there, it's Veronica, your American expat in Portugal, and I've changed my site name, you may have noticed, to An American in Portugal. Much easier and Josh approved, which I'd like to introduce you to. Josh from Expats Everywhere. Josh, tell us a little bit about yourself. You've been an expat everywhere for quite a long period of time. So if you don't mind, tell me a little bit about your story and, of course, how morphed into a blog. Two
Yeah,
questions.
yeah, absolutely. So the name Expats Everywhere comes because we wanted to share the stories of people living everywhere as expats. So it's not necessarily because my wife and I have lived abroad for 12 years in 5 different countries, but it was more because we wanted to, yeah, share other people's experiences to give others that haven't stepped out of themselves in their home country a shot of courage to know that people similar to them, from similar backgrounds, people that aren't necessarily super rich or whatever, can move abroad and find a new life. As far as me, I grew up in a small town, a town called Bristol on the border of Virginia and Tennessee. I went to university there, and I caught the travel bug when I was in between my second and third year. I did a study abroad in Italy for the summer, and I realized being a small town kid, I didn't get homesick being away from my family, and that really just opened up the world to me because I was like, I can do this. I can live abroad. I can move from my town and still be okay. So that's where it all began. And then I met my wife, and we moved to Spain 12 years ago, and then we just didn't look back from that point.
So you were in Italy in your third year. Where in Italy were you doing your study abroad?
Yeah, we traveled quite a bit. The main place that we were was in Tuscany. We were in a town called Chianciano, and it's just outside of Montepulciano, which, man, is an amazing wine region. But yeah, we
That's
were.
where I was at, making wine for 5 weeks.
Were you
Have you heard
really?
of Spinalunga? Between Montepulciano and Montalcino, and
Yes.
Spinalunga was our internet cafe.
Yeah, for some reason, my university had a connection there with a convent actually, and
Oh,
so we
great.
we stayed at a convent for 4 of the 6 weeks that we were there, and we had some of the most amazing meals from nuns that you could imagine.
That's great.
Yep.
Okay, so you met your wife, and um, did you meet her back home in America or when you were out traveling? So back in America,
Yeah, we met
and
back in the
then
States.
okay, and then you moved to Spain. So how did you up and go to Spain? What was the teaching or like?
Yeah, so my wife at the time had no interest in being in the education industry. And I knew that being in the education industry was kind of a means to an end, to get abroad. I mean, at the time, most people I knew that were living abroad were doing it by being a teacher, mainly ESL teachers. So I tried to get her to lean that direction. She wasn't having it, and she was actually just my girlfriend at the time, but she did have a ton of experience as a nanny, and just taking care of kids, babysitting, whatnot. So she moved to Spain, found a family that she could be a nanny for, and I went ahead and started a university program, a master's in bilingual multicultural education,
Wow.
and a part of that was an internship at a school. So my first year I was studying and then also doing this internship, which allowed me to have the correct visa so I could be there to live as an American. Because I mean, it's not necessarily easy to move to a European country being an American, if you don't have a job offer in place. Portugal's made it a ton easier with the D7 visa, the D2 visa. But most of the other European countries, you pretty much need a good job offer or a decent amount of capital, right, to start up there. So yeah, I did a university program, taught there for 2 years, and then Kaylee and I got married and moved on.
Okay, so when you say moved on, you eventually made it over here. So started the channel Expats Everywhere, and now you're here. And I want to touch on a few things. Definitely the visa information, and Josh does have a great video. I did watch that one when you guys were, I think you were on your way to like a CVS store trying to
Yes.
get something notarized. Like I think it was a passport notarized, and you were talking about the FBI report.
Yep.
It's a great video. I'll link that underneath too.
Sure.
So you guys can check that out because it's a journey. Yeah.
That was the beginning of our journey to Portugal. That was pretty much like the first week that we started doing our work towards the D7 visa. Yep.
Okay. And how did you find Portugal? I mean, was it because your channel and you were investigating it, or how did you find this little hidden paradise?
Yeah. So, like I said, we started this whole journey abroad 12 years ago, but the channel didn't start until almost 6 years ago now. But at the time, it was a hobby, and we were just trying to interview people about their living abroad experiences. But then when we were in Singapore, we made a decision, like either we really try to grow this thing properly and make it like see how far we could push it, or we just keep it as a hobby, and when we have free time, we'll interview people and keep doing what we're doing.
So let's talk about medical care. I know we were going back and forth with insurance. Have you done research on the insurance here, or have you decided to just kind of keep some in America and transition here? That's the biggest question I find that I get asked is insurance, because I think that's what keeps people from retiring in America, because they know that, even if they're between jobs, they get that COBRA bill of $1,000 to $2,000 a month versus that's an annual amount here. Or have you made any decisions on?
Yeah,
I think
so
that's a big thing for people in America.
no, I think that's an awesome question. So we currently have an international plan that basically covers us anywhere we travel. We did not get the extension for the US to be covered there. The reason being is we just didn't have a plan in the year to go back to the US. We thought if for some reason we go back to the US, then we can just pick up something for a week or two that we're back there. So we have this really premium coverage. The problem is that COVID has knocked on so long, we've not been able to travel to even use it. Now, it's a good thing to not have to use insurance. Without a shadow of a doubt, it's a good thing. But
You have a baby, so well visits, right? Well baby visits.
Yeah. So we've decided that we're going to switch to something that's much more local and affordable, and then purchase travel insurance when we do travel. That'll be in August.
One of the perks I do want to throw out there, because people ask about this also, Allianz has one, and I go through my expat association that did like a group cost, and when you travel, it covers a few months of travel for emergencies. So that's always good to know, that you won't have to buy the travel insurance, which many times when you're booking travel, you'll notice it's an alliance policy they issue.
That's right.
So just to throw out there to people, and I don't get paid for, I don't get referral fees, I don't get anything for Allianz, but
You should.
it's the one that's key. I know, we should. Okay, we'll have to have a talk about that. But, with AFPOP, they've negotiated such a great discount that I feel that, that's a service in itself. $600 a year, and I'm 53 years old. Now, there is a caveat that people need to know. If you hit over 70, it does get expensive. So what you want to do is get here before you're 70, so you can be under the regular plans. Because beyond 70, there are some insurance policies, but they're pricey. Mind you, they may not be as pricey as the United States, but then I've been asked, oh, can we use Medicare over there? And that's, yeah. So if you're going to do it, this is one of those reasons to get over here while you can. Fly, be free.
I 100% agree. And that's just one of the reasons to make the move to Portugal.
So tell me how you found your last apartment. I saw you had a video on that, so we can watch his video, but a quick clip. You had to move to a couple different ones, yeah?
Yeah, I would say, to be honest, finding the last apartment, we didn't find our last apartment. The last apartment found us. So the first place that we were in, there was a leak with the roof, and we went through a period here in Porto where it was just raining like crazy. And we had already seen that the roof was having some issues. So we let the property management company know. They let the owner know. The owner, I guess, from what was communicated with me, didn't really want to handle the situation. Just, thought it would blow over. And and then,
welcome to Portugal.
yeah,
It'll be fine.
yeah. And then it got so bad to where it became, an absolute risk. Because the rain didn't look like it was really going to be letting up either. So they moved us into a place that would work temporarily. It was actually a place that we had already done like a little staycation in because we were getting cabin fever with COVID regulations and whatnot. So we were in this place for a few days, and we realized, this probably won't work for us long term. Well, when we moved out of our first apartment, we said, we can stay in that place for about a week, but we'll need to find something that fits our needs a bit better. And the current place that we're in right now, it was one of two that really kind of fit our parameters. And we still wanted to be somewhat in the city, and we are. We're just kind of like on the outskirts of the downtown core. I would say no more than a 15-minute walk really to like the tourist hubbub. And
The bridge and that cute downtown. I don't know
yeah,
that cute downtown.
the bridge is a
square.
little further away. The river's probably another 10 minutes or so.
Okay.
But for us to get to the metro, for example, where all of the lines meet, or 4 out of the maybe 5 lines meet, it's probably 15-minute walk. So it's quite centrally located still. Now, if we take the metro, we're just a couple of metro stops away. And this place was really ideal because we were able to experience a different neighborhood. Like before, the first 2 apartments, we had only been in the downtown city center. So it was really nice.
Oh, for center.
Yeah.
In the city center before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So one of the apartments was 1 street away from Rua de Santa Catarina, which is like the famous walking street here in Porto, where there's plenty of shops and pastel de nata places, and
It is cool. I've been there. It's pretty awesome.
yeah. And then the other one is in the Sei do Feita neighborhood, really close to Clérigos Towers, or Clérigos Tower. I don't know why I always pluralize that. It's just one tower. So really close.
The Algarve.
Yeah, exactly. So really close to Clérigos Tower, and it's still like, not, I shouldn't say still, it is centrally located. It is downtown. It's, at the time that we were there, it wasn't as touristy or as much of a buzz because it's the winter, there were restrictions. But now when we walk down there, it's like, maybe it's good that we're actually living in the outskirts with our daughter, being able to walk around in greener areas, being able to walk the dog in these kind of like nicer, greener, calmer areas. So it's actually been a real blessing in disguise, for sure.
Okay, so since we talked about apartments and you found the one that's right for you for now, right?
For now, yeah.
So why Porto? We got on your channel, we were talking about why you chose the Algarve, what kind of spoke to me, what sang to me, what sang to you about Porto?
Yeah, so when we lived in Spain, we traveled to Portugal 4 different times. And the first time we came here, we did travel through Porto. We traveled through Lisbon as well. And comparing the two, there was just something extrinsic, I don't know, something that just spoke to us about the city, like the vibe about it. So we kept coming back here. So on the 4 trips, every time we made it a point to pop into Porto, whether it be for a day or 2 or a week. And really what we found moving back here, the people are extremely nice. Comparing the people here to in Lisbon, because really for us it was between Lisbon and Porto due to the size of the cities. We wanted that city feel, and Porto still gives you that. But the people here, compared to kind of the cosmopolitan type of attitude, the hurry type of attitude that you get in Lisbon, which still is not like the hurry that you'll find with people in New York, for example, or London or Paris. They're just nicer. The other thing is, the city's a big city, but it's still walkable. It's very walkable.
Okay, so we in one of my videos we discussed bringing a car or not bringing a car.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is the perfect example. I have to do one just about the car in general. So you're choosing a city, and with the city, it's not really conducive to a car, right? You don't need it. It's expensive. It's hard to park. It's completely different than, let's say, the Algarve, where I want to just hop in my car and go to Spain. Or there's a huge dilemma here that people ask, and I think you and I are the perfect example of you can do both. It kind of determines on where you choose to live. So you picked an area that you said you're the crossroads of like 4 good metro stations.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and that beautiful one with all the azuelas.
Azulejos?
Yes, thank you.
The blue tiles.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I can't say it right.
Azulejos, yeah. So the azulejos are these typical blue tiles that you see really not just in Porto, but kind of all over Portugal. And they just depict different scenes. And some of them are purely decorative in the sense that it's just like some sort of image or pattern that's repeated over and over again. But then others can actually be like a scene, like a fresco that you'll find in Italy, but it's painted on tiles, not just on stucco. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole thing. There's, I think it's, I can't say it right, azulejos, hunters, and they're going and looking for like the oldest and the most historical. And there's some cool stuff for like the people that love art to be able to look at something different, artistic in Portugal that's kind of creative and fun, something to explore.
Yeah, I think that there's a website here that's dedicated to the azulejos, and you can basically follow this route that you walk the city just to check out the different azulejos that are on the buildings. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Well, there's so much too. I think when you come over, to Europe, to Portugal, there's so much that you don't know what you don't know. You know, and you find that where like, oh wow, I can start hunting into like these cool tiles, and of course we know there's the port houses, but there's all kinds of hidden history in there. And then you pop over to the Templar history, and then there's so much for those that love to explore and find unique little niches. But okay, I digress. So let's go back to, you chose Porto and you chose to live without a car.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the reasons we choose cities is because we don't really want to have the burden of a car. Going back to how we've discussed what's the purpose of moving, and if you want to live in a place that's like America, then why move from America, right? For us, I think the car is like that. We want to detach ourselves from the need to have a car, and Lisbon and Porto absolutely allow you to do that. I would say Braga as well will allow you to do that without much difficulty. And then you'll find that a lot of Portuguese people have cars, they drive. I don't know if I would say it's a driving culture per se. A lot of people also use public transportation, but you find that people are living more outside of the city, and they'll commute in for work, or they want to have the flexibility to, like you said, cross the border to Spain, or drive to another town on the weekend, or go to their small village for holidays and such. And cars give you that ability. But for us, we didn't want the attachment of having a car, the extra expenses of having a car. So Porto makes a lot of sense. Great public transportation. I mean, great. If you don't have a metro nearby, there's a bus that's going to take you where you need to go. And we hardly ever take buses, but you can walk. You can walk everywhere. Now, if you want to come to Porto and you want to own a car, you probably won't have very many issues finding parking. it will be more expensive than just using public transportation, because gas isn't cheap. There are parking fees, or your parking space at your apartment building, but overall, you don't need a car here.
Well, and if you're traveling and searching, it depending on where you go, it can be a burden. I mean, you might want to just rent to go from one place to the other, or use the train. Flights are inexpensive from Porto to Faro, or
Yeah.
Lisbon. It's going to cost less than your tolls and be quicker. For the south, things are more spread apart. So, I do have a car, but there's trains here, and my friends don't have cars,
Yeah.
and normally I'm like, I'm making a run for the border. Who wants to go shopping in Spain? And the girls will all, jump in the car, and we'll go, get our jamón in Spanish, the Rioja wines and the Spanish stuff, and then come back over and have our Portugal treats as well. But those towns, I know when we were looking around Porto, because we were considering it to live, even just for visiting, a car can be a burden. In that we couldn't stay in some of the hotels we wanted to downtown, because there was no parking. So we ended up, far, across the bridge, and not the cute bridge into Porto. Not the other bridge isn't cute, but you know what I mean. We were at the other bridge, on this huge monster corporate hotel by the mall, because it had tons of parking. So
Yeah.
I think that's definitely a consideration you need to look at. Cars versus no cars.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I know what hotel you're talking about in Villanova de Gaia. Yeah.
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 Yeah. I mean,
That's
I couldn't
funny.
even be, and then we ended up Ubering everywhere, because you still, it's, if you can find parking, I mean, there are places to park, but it's not like our newer towns that are meant for vehicles. These are older towns meant for horse and carriage, and my goodness, if you get down the wrong street, you're backing out. I've backed out a lot of streets.
Oh, yeah.
Ended up on pedestrian zones, because Google or Waze will still take you sometimes to a pedestrian zone, and you go, oopsie. And you are there with a child, and how are you finding that with your new baby?
Overall, having a kid here is phenomenal, because there's a culture here where people really enjoy kids. It is pretty amazing to see that you can have an 8-year-old, an 18-year-old, or an 80-year-old that will greet a baby, that will greet a really young kid. Like, the 8-year-old's excited, the 18-year-old is cool with it. Like, most 18-year-olds in the States, I think, would be like, ooh, get that baby away from me. But here, they'll at least smile and wave and like try to make some faces and have an interaction. Like, it's not like they're being too cool, to say hello to a kid, like an infant. Then you have 80-year-olds, or like the retirees, that will pat the kid on the head, or grab their foot, or try to speak to our baby girl, and it's awesome. Like, that's an amazing cultural thing to have, and you don't have to worry about the same security, like stranger danger issues that you do in the States. Other aspects of having a kid, you asked about the stroller. Cobblestone's not awesome for strollers. So
Did you get one with like 4-wheel drive tires? Or
we talked about exchanging the tires before we moved here, and we just haven't. But we thought actually that they would end up breaking down. They've held up pretty well, but just in general, like, it feels rough on it, going across cobblestone. So we've kind of avoided some of those spots whenever we're walking around with her. We figure out where the smoother spots are. Having the little compartment underneath has been awesome for groceries, because, like you said, a lot of the older people will kind of bring their little wheelie carts or whatever for their
essentially like a stroller.
Yeah, for their local, or not local, for their like weekly grocery runs or daily grocery runs. For us, we've got that little basket under the stroller, so we just chuck everything in there. We have a backpack, we put other things in, so it makes it pretty easy.
Your beer runs, so I really love, I think, one of the things you just focused on, which is the focus on family, and it's so huge here. Nobody is excluded. When they go out to the city squares at night, grandma's out at 10, 11, 12 dancing in the square with the 3 or 4-year-old, with mommy, daddy. It's such a fabulous family culture.
Yep.
Let's segue to safety because you also touched on
Yeah.
a stranger danger. I know I feel super safe, and I get asked that all the time,
Hmm.
as a female who's, I'm a widow. So as a female who's alone, do you feel safe? There's groups here, American, women retiring alone, all that kind of stuff. I
I
mean,
I
do you
agree.
feel
Like
safe?
we felt super safe here. I will say that there's a certain profile of person, whether you like wherever you live, there's a certain profile of person that maybe puts your senses on like a bit higher alert, like
Sure.
the way they're dressed, or the way that maybe they're stumbling around the street or shouting something that you don't know what they're saying or whatever. And those people still exist here. But I think because, like you said, you don't hear that incidents like this happen often, you feel a little more at ease knowing, like, man, the likelihood of something bad happening is really, really low. Yeah.
I know I was walking home late the other night from a friend's. We got together and had a barbecue or something. And, I'm walking my, 5 blocks, from the city square. Oh, hi. Someone's awake. Uh, from the, and everyone's like, are you going to be okay? I'm like, of course. And I walked home and it was so beautiful and so zen. I actually stopped, took some photos, took some videos of how peaceful and zen and beautiful it is. Again, I hop in my car and I go. And I stopped by Salamanca and Merida, which who knew? Here's this little town in the middle of nowhere that's got all these Roman ruins. Like you
Beautiful.
just walk through the town, there's like ruins in the town, like
Yeah.
Temple of Diana palace things. Like it's so cool. And then another couple hours and you're in Madrid or Toledo, and by train or car. I think that's if you're part of this tribe.
Yeah. One pro tip that I have to throw out there about Toledo is if you've had a desire to do a hot air balloon ride, but you've never done it, do it there. It's really
Really?
affordable, and
Okay.
it's really pretty. So anybody that is keen to do hot air balloon, go there.
Okay, so letting Josh get back to his lovely daughter and wife, I'm going to wrap it up, and we'll put the link to Expats Everywhere, so that way you can check out his blogs, of course, his story on how they got their visa from America. They do a lot of stuff I'm not going to do because he's a really good editor, and I'm here to do slice of life in my town. So I really appreciate you coming on here. Don't forget, team, like, subscribe, join our mailing list if you want to get special content before anyone else does, or private content. And thank you again, Josh, Expats Everywhere.
Thanks, Veronica. Appreciate it. Bye.
Bye.